I declare the special council meeting on Tuesday the 19th of May open at 5:30 p.m. and would like to advise that the meeting is being live streamed in accordance with the council meeting's live streaming, recording and electronic attendance policy. By being present at this meeting, members of the public consent to the city's live streaming and recording and subsequently publishing their voice on the city's website. I'd like to start tonight's meeting with some words prepared by Elder George Wally. People have been here for a long time. I want to acknowledge the presence of people over that long time, with first the Binjarab Noongar people, who continue to have an ongoing connection to this land. They have been here for over 50,000 years. This place, Mandurah or Mandurah, acknowledges a beautiful name full of intent, of people living here and others visiting here. That intent gives us an idea of the ancestral land usage over this long period. Mandurah, the gathering place, is unique because even today we still gather here in the most beautiful place for many important reasons. Let us embrace the notion of people being in this space as we move forward as one community. Are there any apologies for tonight's meeting? Councillor Zolani, anyone else? No? Important notice, members of the public are advised that any decisions made at this meeting tonight can be revoked in accordance with the Local Government Act 1995. Therefore, members of the public should not rely on any decision until formal notification in writing by council has been received. We now move into public question time. Please ensure that your questions relate to ordinary business of the council, the function of council, or the purpose of tonight's meeting. Please note that this is an important opportunity to ask questions only. No additional statements or arguments will be permitted. During public question time, members of the public are given the opportunity to ask questions of council. Council will allocate 15 minutes of public question time. Once that time has been exhausted, I may move a motion to extend public question time by another 15 minutes. The City is committed to ensuring fair and equitable access to public question time in accordance with council policy. Each member of the public who wishes to ask any question may ask up to 3 questions at tonight's meeting. Public question time must be conducted in accordance with the City of Mandurah's standing orders. Questions must not reflect adversely on the integrity of the City of Mandurah, including any elected member, city officer or other party. When called forward to ask your questions, please begin by stating your name. The City will make every attempt to provide an answer. Where this is not possible, your question will be taken on notice and a written response will be provided to you once the necessary research has been undertaken. This response will also be included in our next council meeting agenda. I would now like to open public question time at 5:33 p.m. and would like to invite Mr. Russell Lansby. Lansby? Sorry. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Mayor, CEO and councillors. My name is Russell Lazenby. Get the side of it. I have 3 questions. I believe that council is proposing to set aside some funds for the development of the Western Foreshore. Has the excising of the A-class reserve been approved, or is it a fait accompli?
Thank you, Mr. Lansby. I'll refer that to the CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. The consideration of the land excision is still with the state government, and in relation to the projects that have been identified in the long-term financial plan, the projects which include the coastal works as a result of any coastal hazard reports, that has been included, and that would need to occur regardless of whether the proposal was approved or not. The other important infrastructure project is the intersection and the roundabout on Mary Street and Old Coast Road, and that works is also required regardless of whether the proposal goes ahead as well.
Thank you, CEO. My second question, Mayor, is that with the 6.2 million revenue, which is in the brochure, which I picked up on my way in, that equates to roughly about 240,000 248,000 per annum. Who's paying for that? Is that the facility that is providing the drinks and the food, or is it made up of other lessees? Because I believe that the main facility is actually got a peppercorn lease. So how does that work?
Thank you, Mr Lansonby. I'll refer that to the CEO.
So the proposal is for one operator and there will be one lease. And so the business that has the lease is required to operate all three activities, one being the restaurant and microbrewery, the other one being the 18-hole mini golf course, and the last activity is the chocolate factory. They will be required to operate those, and also we have advised that it will be they wouldn't be able to lease and sub-operate. They are required to operate all three of those activities.
Okay, thank you. My last question is, have the existing businesses, which if this proposal goes ahead, and I believe there are other facilities which provide beer, gin and all that sort of thing, and people have liquor licenses in the area, what study has been done with regard to them, and what was the feedback, and is that feedback available?
Thank you so much, Mr Lansonby. I'll refer that to the CEO as well.
So the existing businesses did have an opportunity to provide feedback in and within the consultation period. All that feedback relating to the community and including businesses is available and was included in the council report for those submissions. And so businesses could have provided submissions. I don't have the list of each business, but that was available, and it is available on our public, on our website and in the public. So I can, I'll refer you to the website, and then you can have a look at that.
It is available, all right.
Yeah.
And if I have any queries from there, I can come back to council.
Absolutely.
Those are my three questions.
Thank you so much for your time tonight, Mr Lansonby. Do we have any other members from the public that would like to ask a question at tonight's meeting? If we don't, I shall close public question time at 5:38 p.m. We now move into public statement time, which there is none. We now move into leave of absent requests. Are there any leave of absent requests from elected members for tonight? We now move into petitions, which there are none. Presentations, which there are none. Deputations, which there are also none. And confirmation of minutes, which there are none. And we shall now move into the meeting. I want to start tonight, before we move into tonight's agenda, I would just like to acknowledge the resignation of former councillor Peter Rogers, which took effect last week. Peter has served the Mandurah community for over a decade as councillor of Town Ward, and I want to acknowledge his contribution and commitment to local government over that time. A report from the officers regarding the process for an extraordinary election to fill the vacancy will be considered at the next ordinary council meeting. For now, on behalf of the City of Mandurah and Council, I really want to extend our gratitude to Peter for his years of service to the Mandurah community and wish him all the best with his future endeavours. We now move into declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from elected members? If there are none, we move into questions from elected members. Are there any questions from elected members for tonight's meeting? As there are none, we move into business left over from previous minutes, which there are none. Recommendations from committees, there are also none. And we will move into reports. So as you can see, we have report 19.1, the adoption of the 2027 to 2036 long-term financial plan and council financial position and performance policy on the screen. I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation. Is there anybody happy to second? Deputy Mayor Smith? I will speak to the officer's recommendation. As most of you know, I moved to Mandurah in the early 90s. I had a really colourful and a complicated childhood here. I've seen the very best of our city, and I've also seen the hardest parts of it. I know exactly what it's like to live in both worlds. That experience has shaped everything I've done in my life and everything I continue to do for our community. Mandurah has always been a city of contrasts. Even back then, there were families doing well and families doing it really tough. That is not something new for Mandurah. But what is new is the size of the gap and the fact that it continues to get bigger. For many people, Mandurah represents lifestyle, opportunity and connection. We're surrounded by extraordinary waterways, strong neighbourhoods and a community that genuinely looks after each other. But for others, life feels much harder. The rising costs, housing stress, unemployment, mental health challenges, and the pressures on families, seniors, and young people are all part of our reality. Not everyone experiences Mandurah the same way. Some residents may never rely on a community program, a library service, or our seniors' activities. For others, those services are essential to the well-being and to their connection to this place. A decision that feels small to one household can completely change the life of another. That's why leadership means thinking beyond our own circumstances, considering the needs of the broader community, especially those doing it toughest. Mandurah is emerging as one of West Australia's leading regional cities, and we are shaping that future with purpose and, I believe, great confidence. Our population is projected to exceed 130,000 people by 2036. With that growth comes greater demand for infrastructure, local services and community facilities, while also continuing to maintain our existing assets. Our community has already given us a clear direction through the Strategic Community Plan, a Mandurah that is connected, livable, resilient and future-focused. The long-term financial plan is about making Mandurah a city that works for everyone, now and into the future. Growth gives us the opportunity to build stronger, more vibrant Mandurah, not just a bigger one. We are committed to delivering the services our community relies on, especially at a time when many people need support, connection and stability. As Mandurah grows, we will protect the lifestyle and natural environment and that sense of belonging that makes this place home. Every service matters to someone, and each one plays a role in keeping our community strong. Guided by evidence and by the need for our whole community, we will invest in Mandurah that is inclusive, resilient and ready for the future we are building together. As we look at Mandurah's future, we are committed to protecting the lifestyle, natural environment and sense of community that makes this place so special. We will continue to invest in the services that keep Mandurah connected, supported and thriving, because every service touches someone's life in a meaningful way. And we will shape Mandurah's next chapter with care, confidence, guided by evidence, by community direction and by a shared belief in the vibrant, inclusive and resilient city we are becoming. The reality is the cost to delivering these services and maintaining infrastructure is now greater than what we have historically collected through rates. Avoiding that gap doesn't make it disappear. It simply leaves it for future generations, paying more for services and assets that we rely on today. The proposed 4.95% rate increase reflects genuine cost pressures being felt across local government. But this council has not approached this process by simply passing on the costs. Staff and elected members have spent considerable time reviewing programs, identifying efficiencies, challenging spending assumptions and carefully reviewing service levels. As a mum of 3 teenagers, I think often about what the next generation of Mandurahans are going to inherit. I don't want them paying for the problems we avoided because of the decisions were uncomfortable. I want them to inherit a city that is strong, resilient and well cared for. A city where opportunity is real and where community remains at the heart of everything we do. Our long-term financial plan is how we invest in the Mandurah we want to become. A thriving regional city where opportunity is real and residents feel connected to their community. That is why I wholeheartedly support our long-term financial plan, and I'm very excited to hear what the community has to say about it when it goes for advertising. Deputy Mayor, would you like to speak to the item?
Thank you, through the Mayor. The long-term financial plan outlines the long-term financial sustainability of our local government and enables the early identification of financial challenges and their future impacts. It demonstrates the connection between the city's strategic plans and priorities while also strengthening council transparency and accountability. The LTFP is essential to the Council's financial planning process as it identifies how we fund the delivery of the corporate business plan and the strategic community plan, both of which are a requirement under the Local Government Act 1995. The LTFP further defines the city's rating strategy, which is based on a weighted average approach designed to reflect the financial pressures experienced by the city each year. Included within this is the additional Asset Renewal Contribution, or ARC, of 0.68%, aimed at reducing the shortfall between the current rates paid by ratepayers and the level of funding required to maintain existing service standards and support ongoing asset renewal needs. At present, ratepayers are contributing less than the required amount. The proposed strategy of gradually increasing rates with the 6.8% over 10 years provides a phased approach to ensuring the necessary level of annual capital renewal investment is achieved. Without implementing the incremental 0.68 asset renewal charge over the 10-year plan, addressing the $12 million shortfall currently underpaid by ratepayers would require a 16.6% increase in rates this year to maintain existing service levels. Imposing such a substantial one-off increase would, in my view, be inequitable. The staged approach, by contrast, considers the financial pressures on ratepayers and provides a more manageable path to achieving the required investment. It's anticipated by year 9, the rates being collected will align with the amount required, removing the need for the additional asset renewal contribution. However, despite the contribution no longer being necessary at that stage, there will still be an ongoing requirement to fund asset renewals through the combination of rates revenue, borrowings and reserves. This is due to a historic funding gap which has developed over many decades, along with a significant backlog of renewal works needed to maintain the city's $1.58 billion asset base and associated service levels. Failure to maintain the strategy presents a significant risk that asset conditions will deteriorate over time, resulting in increased cost and the potential reduction of service levels, ultimately placing additional financial pressure on future ratepayers. The modelling indicates the phased approach achieves a balance between current affordability and progressing towards a stronger long-term funding position. Should no action be taken by Council, there's a risk the city's assets will decline and the level of service delivered to the community may be adversely affected. Demand for and utilisation of the city's assets is also expected to grow in line with the population increase throughout the life of the LTFP. The expected population increase of 22% between 2025 and 2036 will create greater demand on services, which needs to be accounted for. As is noted each year during rates discussions, I have never once received a request from a resident to reduce services. Rather, the community constantly seeks enhancements, whether that be a new skate park in Dawesville, more public toilets, more public open space or improvement of sports facilities. My priority is to ensure that we have necessary funds to maintain and renew assets and services over 10 years and beyond. I believe the addition of 6 new positions funded through 3 categories is essential to support the delivery of these future needs effectively. I appreciate the implementation of the efficiency program strategies, including permanent cost savings, one-off cost savings, business improvements and service and program reviews. This demonstrates a strong culture of continuous improvement embedded within the City of Mandurah. I have confidence with the expertise of the Business Service and Finance departments and sincerely appreciate the considerable time and effort invested in preparing the financial implication briefings and reports we receive to ensure Council has clear understanding of both process and content. For these reasons, I wish to endorse the LTFP, a 10-year financial framework, including assumptions, rating strategies, borrowing plans and reserves, approach that underpins the sustainable delivery of current service levels and planned asset renewals, and approve its release for public consultation. On a side note, in regarding the Council's financial position and performance policy, I appreciate the workshop in which Council participated to discuss ideas and options, and I support the minor amendments as part of this annual review. I also approve the addition of the proposed reserves to be introduced to the 2026-27 financial year, subject to advertising, the Cash in lieu reserve and the Mandurah Ocean Marina Chalet Maintenance and Renewal Reserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Are there any questions from elected members? Is there anyone wishing to get a question? Councillor Burns?
Thank you, Chair. I refer to the performance, the financial position and performance policy, and I believe it's an amendment from my recollection that prior to proposed rate increase, the city will demonstrate the cost efficiencies have been identified, assessed and implemented, ensuring expenditure is reviewed and prioritised in accordance with the service levels established by Council. And also note the long-term financial plan also includes a $250,000 permanent savings target. So my questions are in and around that.
Yeah.
Looking at option one, before asking ratepayers to pay 4.95% more, can the CEO confirm whether the city has already found and applied all savings and efficiencies that officers believe are reasonably available in this budget, and obviously year one of the long-term financial plan? And if so, can the CEO give Council an estimate of those total value of those savings?
Thank you, Councillor Burns. I'll refer that to the CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. That 250,000 permanent savings has not been found yet. So we do work through the current financial year, and that's our aim, is to find the efficiencies at that time, and we'll continue to do that in the 26-27 year. As you are aware, those savings are included in the monthly finance implications briefing agenda, and we'll continue to report on those during that financial year.
Thank you, CEO. Subsequent question, Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Chair. So as I read that policy, that commitment to look for savings sits outside of that $250,000 permanent plan. So given that was an amendment, did you take particular attention to that wording and apply it to the preparation of this year's budget and long-term financial plan? Or does it pertain only to that $250,000?
Thank you, Councillor Burns. I'll refer that to the CEO.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. So in relation to identifying savings, that is our culture throughout the city when we're going through the long-term financial plan process. It is to identify savings within our baseline and also savings within our programs as well. So that is something that we are doing as part of the process. In addition to that, we have the $250,000 worth of permanent savings and the $500,000 one-off savings as part of our target and how we present the budget with a $500,000 deficit already. So there's a combination of how we identify savings, and that $250,000 permanent savings is one of them, but the others are also factored in.
Thank you, CEO. Another question,
If I
Councillor
may,
Burns?
Chair,
That is fine.
and the fault probably lies in my questioning, not in the responses.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to get my head around. So that if it's within the culture, then that's an ongoing business as usual. When you identify those savings, you then rack them into accumulate them into that 250,000, or report on those. So that's as I understand it. And then, but the policy states that you're to look for savings prior to doing the budget. So are those savings outside of the 250,000, and what was their value?
I'll refer that to the Director of Business Services.
Thank you. Through the Chair, through the development of the baseline, the organisation found an additional $305K in savings, which is outside of the $250,000. And we did provide that information in the last financial implications briefing session on the 12th of May. And they include costs across marketing, general materials, a particular entrepreneurship that we're delivering. There was some surplus in a training budget, which we reduced. We've reduced our expenditure on uniforms. We've reduced our expenditure on training, and we've reduced our expenditure on subscriptions and publications. So in the development of the LTFP, all business areas are required to review their budgets, and we find additional savings, which forms the baseline, and that is on top of the efficiency program of the 250K permanent cost savings. It's also in addition to the 500,000 one-off cost savings.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Burns.
If I may, and on the fly, have you got in front of you those savings as a percentage of the total budget then, of approximately 160 million?
I'll refer that to Jared. Yeah. One moment, Councillor Burns. I'll refer that to the Manager of Finance. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you, through the chair. 305,000 in savings over the $180,000 expenditure is approximately 0.17%.
Thank you to the Manager of Finance. Are there any other questions, Councillor Burns?
If I may?
Yes.
The way I read it, I did write it down, but I'll wing it here. It reads as if those savings in that amended, that they read to me that they're targeting operational costs. Is that correct, or does that also apply to the capital component of this budget? And if not, do you have similar savings target on capital expenditure?
Thank you, Councillor Burns. I'll refer that to the CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. In relation, that is related to operational, and also the reason why we target operational is because of our operating surplus ratio as well, where we don't receive enough operating revenue to cover our operating expenditure. In relation to setting the capital budget, there is a combination of how the capital budget will be funded. And so what the city and city officers review is how much there is remaining to be spent on capital, obviously taking into consideration borrowings and reserves, and the capacity to deliver, and whether the project is ready to be delivered as well. Those costs are undertaken by reviewing the scope of works, by reviewing the unit costs associated with each of the components of those works, and also the quantities. And where we know what the market value for the rates are, where we will set those budgets accordingly to those. It would be unrealistic to set a capital savings target for capital that potentially would be funded from borrowings or reserves, because if we realise those savings, we draw down only on what we've spent, and so it isn't impacting the rates that are collected, because we are only drawing down on what we spent, and that's the same with reserves. We'll only take out what we spend. So it is in our best interest to identify savings within the scope of those capital projects, so we can put more money into reserve knowing there is a gap, borrowing less where we can, but also when there are other projects that are ready and we have that gap of required expenditure, or the projects that should be delivered now, there's an opportunity to bring one of those capital projects forward and to be able to undertake those works as well.
Thank you, CEO. Are there any other questions from elected members? Is there anybody wishing to speak against the... Oh, yes, sorry, Councillor Mulder.
So just a question, thank you, Mayor. Prompted by the question we received from the public earlier, I was a little unclear on in our capital program, we have 280,000 being spent in year one for the Western Foreshore Leisure Precinct. Can I get clarification as to the scope of that 280,000?
Thank you, Councillor Mulder. I'll refer that to the Director of Business Services.
Thank you, through the chair. For year one, we do have an amount of $280,000, and that is for planning and detailed design for the coastal hazard costings.
Thank you, Director. Are there any other questions from elected members? Is there anyone wishing to speak against? If there's no one wishing to speak against, there are no... Councillor Burns.
Just to clarify, this is report 19.1, isn't it? Yes. Thank you, Chair. I understand this item is to adopt the long-term financial plan and amended financial policy for public advertising, not to make the final budget decision. But it is still an important decision. The long-term financial plan sets the direction, it embeds the assumptions, it signals Council's preferred financial path. And year one of the path includes a proposed 4.95% rate increase, option 1. If I oppose that rate increase, then I must also oppose a long-term financial plan that incorporates it. I want to be clear, I support responsible financial management, I support asset renewal, I support not unfairly shifting costs to future ratepayers. But I do not accept that the principles require Council to preserve the current operating model by default and then ask ratepayers to fund it. The report focuses on shortfalls, reserves, borrowings and financial ratios. Those matters are important, but the modelling is built on a key assumption that the current service levels continue. When the report refers to funding gaps under a rate freeze, that should not be treated as the end of the discussion. My position is not to freeze rates and simply borrow more, neglect asset renewal or cut core services. My position is to freeze rates and do the harder work of reducing, deferring or reprioritising spending. The amended policy says efficiencies should be identified, assessed and implemented before any proposed rate increase. That is the right order. Savings first, scrutiny first, service review first, then Council considers whether any rate increase is justified. As we've discussed, the plan includes a $250,000 permanent savings target after the budget is adopted. A savings target is a step in the right direction, but in my view, the $250,000 is far too modest against the size of the city's budget. Against the operating budget in the order of $160 million or $180 million, I think it was mentioned earlier, it is around 0.16%. So if that is slightly out, it's thereabouts. It's way less than 0.5%. More importantly, a future savings target is not the same as proving the proposed rate increase has already been reduced as much as reasonably possible. My concern is not with motivation or intent, it is with process. When ratepayers have been asked to absorb a 4.95% increase, Council should be satisfied that the strongest possible savings effort has already occurred. This is not happening in isolation. Households are already dealing with sustained cost of living pressure. Mortgage repayments, rents, insurance, groceries, power bills and general living costs have all increased sharply. Many wages have not kept pace in real terms. Year after year, 4% and 5% increases compound. They may be manageable for some, but for people already at the margins, every increase matters. Taxes, including rates, are compulsory. That creates a moral obligation to be extremely careful with other people's money. Well-intentioned spending is not automatically justified spending. In government, we are not spending our own money, and the people paying do not get to opt out. That means the moral test is higher. We should be asking whether each use of public money is necessary, whether it delivers broad community value, and whether it is fair to compel households to fund it at a time when many are under real financial pressure. This is not about attacking staff, it is about elected members doing our job. We must decide what is essential, what is valuable, what can be done differently, and what can be deferred, and what should no longer be done. My concern is this long-term financial plan locks in too much and questions too little. If consultation is genuine, then Council must remain open to a lower rate path after submissions are received. But I do not believe this plan is the right starting point. For those reasons, I can't support the officer recommendation. And should this motion fail, I foreshadow an alternative motion that's consistent with option 2 in the rating report, a 0% rate increase in year 1, effectively a rate freeze for 2026-27. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Is there anybody wishing to ask a question, or is there anybody wishing to speak for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Schumacher?
Thank you, through the chair. I fully understand exactly where Councillor Burns is coming from. The reality is that in our own households, we experience increases in electricity, increases in water, we have maintenance costs. The same applies to the city. Now, all councillors that are here today have taken part in months and months of briefings and workshops with city officers to develop a long-term financial plan that will benefit the community in the future. We are not state or federal politicians that look 3 or 4 years ahead. We are looking long-term, when I have no doubt most of us will not be on council, but we will still have $1.58 billion worth of assets to look after. And therein lies the issue. Those costs are going up. We must be proactive in our maintenance. We must prepare for the inevitable. And the inevitable, along with, which is the population growth is going to require more services. We need to ensure that we can cover the costs of the maintenance and replacement as deemed necessary for that infrastructure. As it ends, some of it can be maintained, other it's end of life. So this is going out to advertising. It is not the easiest read, I can tell you. I think most councillors would agree with me on that one. But it does set out a plan, a 10-year plan, not a 3-year plan, not a 4-year plan. This is a long-term plan for the future and the benefit of our kids and this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schumacher. Is there anybody wishing to speak against the officer's recommendation? If there isn't, I will close the debate. Thank you, Councillor Burns, for the points that you raised, and thank you, Councillor Schumacher and Deputy Mayor Smith. You know, I totally agree with you, Councillor Schumacher. You look at just the increases that we've had, 3% increase in employee costs, 1.9% increase in insurance, 3.56% increase in utility charges, and then 5.5% increase in materials and contracts. Like, we are not immune to the increases that families are having. And, you know, I am in the privileged position to be working in the community on a volunteer basis, and I walk alongside so many people that are doing it tough. And in an ideal world, I would love to say, do you know what, let's freeze, let's stop it, let's slow down. But I know that those people need the services that our city run more than anybody else right now. And one of the first things that gets cut out of a budget is the services that people are relying on. And I just am so mindful that in the world that we're living in, people need people more than ever. And the city do a whole range of incredible things. And you look at the staff across multiple different spaces. I would be very frightened if we removed the work that we do. And I would also be very frightened if in 5-10 years' time, my kids are paying 25% rate increases because I didn't feel comfortable in what the work that staff are doing now to ensure that we don't have to have our children wear that cost. We're not kicking the can down the road. I think we're being very responsible with this, and I think that we are also being mindful that we're not just building for today, we're building for tomorrow. And, you know, for me personally, I'm super excited for tomorrow for Mandurah, because I know that we have people around this table and people at the city that are working hard to make sure that tomorrow is filled with opportunities for our young people, filled with reasons for people to not just live in Mandurah, but to love this place they get to live in. And I think that's what good stewardship looks like. So I fully support the officer's recommendation, and like I said, when it goes out for advertising. I really hope that our community understands how much work has gone into this, and it is a 10-year plan, Councillor Schumacher, and I think that's a really important thing to also be mindful of. You know, we're not working from election cycle to election cycle. We're actually working on the big picture and what is best for our city, and hopefully elected members that are wearing the decisions we're making today in 10, 20 years' time are really happy with the decisions that we've made for our community. So in saying that, I will put it to the vote. Elected members that are in favour, I declare that carried. Against. Oh, against, sorry, Councillor. Elected members that are against. Noted. Thank you. We will now move into the next report, Report 19.2, Notice of Intention to Impose the 2026-2027 Differential Rates and Minimum Payments. The officer's recommendation is on screen. Do I have an elected member that would like to... Oh, it's not yet. Sorry. Yeah, the officer's recommendation is on screen. Can I ask for a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Wright, is there a seconder? Councillor Wilkins. Councillor Wright, would you like to speak to the officer's recommendation?
Thank you, and through the Mayor. I'm going to be supporting the officer's recommendation and just wanted to note it's not the decision on rates tonight themselves. It's about giving our community a chance to see what's proposed and to seek some feedback from them. One thing of interest to me, it's just worth noting, and it's been mentioned already tonight, the asset renewal contribution was first implemented in 2021, and it came about because of an audit finding. And that audit finding was about identifying for the city that there was insufficient investment in asset renewal at the time, so it needed to align its financial processes with long-term asset sustainability principles, hence the 0.68% increase. During COVID, there was a 0% rate increase imposed by the state government. That was across the board within the state, and that led to a $2.6 million shortfall that year. And with the compounding that occurs with that, over time, it was going to be a $32 million gap in the funding. So that funding shortfall is what that 0.68% is really effectively trying to make up. At the moment, we have a 12 million one, as the Deputy Mayor has said previously. So if we were to adopt a lower rate increase or choose not to apply a 0.68% asset renewable contribution, it would require, as Councillor Burns has said, reviewing and reducing service levels, programs and projects over the life of that 10-year plan. I'm not averse to doing that, but personally I believe such decisions have to be made well prior to meetings such as this, such as in our strategy days, or where we all sit down and actually have a genuine look at the service level being offered, and those adjustments can then be made then, allowing the city officers time to really carefully plan for any changes. So endorsing tonight's motion allows the community to provide feedback, keeps the process transparent, and ensures any final decisions that we're making around rates actually considers the community feedback that we're going to get. So, yeah, I think it steps out in our long-term financial plan, was in direct response to the strategic community plan, which had a lot of touch points for our community. So I'm supporting the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Wilkins, as the seconder, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Pretty much echoing much that Councillor Wright has said. I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation, and would also like to thank those involved in not only bringing this to Council tonight, but also the many briefings that we had throughout the year. This recommendation reflects the actual cost pressures currently being experienced by the city. The modelling demonstrates this approach that provides a balanced 10-year financial pathway that maintains current service levels, supports investment in community infrastructure, and strengthens the city's long-term financial sustainability. Importantly, ensures adequate funding is available for asset renewal and infrastructure maintenance. It means current assets and services are appropriately funded by current ratepayers, rather than shifting increasing debt and renewal liabilities onto future generations. Anything lower than this, than what is recommended, would either significantly increase debt levels and borrowing costs, place additional pressure on key financial sustainability ratios and borrowing limits, or require substantial service reductions, meaning they not only impact the city's financial position on paper, they will directly impact the ability to deliver for future projects and infrastructure upgrades. This sustainable approach to rates ensures the city can continue maintaining existing assets while also planning and delivering the community infrastructure needed for our growing population. It's great to see the city continuing to pursue operational efficiencies, digital transformation initiatives, and annual service reviews to improve productivity, ensure services remain aligned with community expectations, and deliver value for money. This recommendation means the city can continue meeting community expectations. It represents a balanced and evidence-based approach that maintains service delivery, supports investment in community infrastructure, and avoids simply pushing financial pressures and asset renewals further down the road for future taxpayers to carry. And it's a recommendation that I support.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Any elected members have any questions? Councillor Schumacher?
Thank you, through the chair, to the relevant officer. When it comes to the advertising, is the actual, if this is approved, or actually in the advertising, is it going to clearly state that the proposed rate increase is 4.95% and not just a rate in the dollar?
Thank you, Councillor Schumacher. Director of Business Services?
Thank you for the question, and through the chair, it will state the rate increase of 4.95 if council adopt that for advertising this evening.
Thank you, Director of Business Services and Councillor Schumacher. Any other? Yeah, Councillor Cumberworth?
Regarding the new SAR for the Southport canals, at the advertised rate, if no dredging is to occur over the coming years, how many years would it be approximately until their reserve threshold is met and they would pay zero SAR as the waterside canals currently are because their reserve is full? Thank you, if you have that information.
Thank you, Councillor Cumberworth. I will refer that to the Director of Built and Natural Environment.
Through the Mayor, I'll need to take the full question on notice. But in terms of the SAR contribution for dredging, that was aimed to collect sufficient funds over 10 years to allow that dredging work to proceed. Should that time shift, adjustment could be made to the SAR. And if the funds were collected over the 10 years and effectively there was no dredging required, then effectively that could be removed from the SAR and held in reserve for those future works. Thank you.
Thank you. Another question, Councillor Schumacher?
Thank you, through the chair, and this I would say would go to the CEO. In relation to the SARs, for those that don't like, what do they call it, acronyms? Specified area rates. I just like my total trade. Okay. At what stage are we at with regards to commercial operators potentially paying towards the SARs for using the canal waterways for business?
Thank you, Councillor Schumacher. I will refer that to the CEO.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. It's important to note that in the specified area rate, the city is already contributing to Port Mandurah 30% in recognition of those commercial operators. So there is already a discount in consideration of commercial operators in that waterway, as a result of that being a popular route for those commercial operators taking on passengers to go through Mandurah. So it is already factored in to the calculation.
Thank you. Follow-up question, Councillor Schumacher?
Thank you, through the chair. Is there any plan in the future, because that basically is Mandurah Council paying, subsidising, if you like, the commercial operators, is there a plan in place for the commercial operators to pay their own way and not be subsidised by the city?
Thank you, Councillor Schumacher. I'll refer that to the CEO.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, there is already a charge that we apply to new licences for commercial operators that they pay a contribution for the maintenance of the waterways. So the city is already receiving those fees for any new operators. And once any new licences, or once a licence expires, there is a requirement for a charge to be placed within the licence for maintenance of waterways.
Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, through the chair. So those funds go into a SARS account? And this also, so when you're referring to new licences, you're also talking about renewal of leases?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll refer that to the CEO.
Through you, Mayor, yes, I'm talking about renewal of any existing licences. In relation to where the money goes, the money is reimbursed just through our municipal funds because the city is already contributing the 30%. So it's what we're trying to do is a reimbursement as such. It doesn't go back into the specified area rate specifically. It just goes into general revenue.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Schumacher?
Thank you, through the chair. When the commercial operators start paying their part into the SARS, would it not be more beneficial that, see, I'm just trying to work this out in my head. Quite a few in Port Mandurah canals are probably the most used by commercial operators. Would it not be beneficial for that money to go into the actual SARS accounts?
Thank you, Councillor Schumacher. I'll refer that to the CEO.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, there is a legislation requirement on how we treat specified area rate reserves, and so only the revenue that we receive from ratepayers for a SAR can go into that reserve. So we have money set aside for our contributions when we need to pay for potentially dredging. So it is the way, it's an accounting treatment, that the reason why we can't put that in. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Councillor Schumacher and the CEO. Are there any other questions from elected members? Yes, Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Mayor, and to the relevant officer. I noted that the city is using the local paper as part of their community consultation. How are we reaching those members in the community that either don't have access to technology or aren't able to use technology?
Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Great question. I'll refer that to the Director of Business Services.
Thank you, through the Chair. In terms of our consultation process in the event that Council adopt this for advertising this evening, it'll include a range of methods. In order to reach the whole community, we're going to be advertising in the local paper, as you mentioned. We'll also be advertising on our website. We'll be including public notices in all of our facilities, including our libraries and our admin centre as well as, and also within this building. Additionally, we are providing a easy-to-read guide for the long-term financial plan, and that we've developed that 2-page summary of the LTFP in direct response to elected member feedback on ensuring that our financial information is presented in an accessible way so the community can understand what they're engaging with when we're seeking their feedback. So we are using a range of methods to engage our community. And sorry, additionally, we're also providing a survey so the community can either engage in the consultation through a short survey to test their views on the financial position and performance policy and the rate increases, or they can provide a letter, and that letter can be sent via email or it can be dropped in to one of our facilities. So we're providing many methods for the community to engage in this process.
Thank you, Director. Are there any other questions from elected members? Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, through the chair, and Councillor Wilkins just reminded me of something with regards to the local papers. There are quite a few areas in Mandurah that do not get the weekly Coastal Times? Mandurah Times, sorry. Mandurah Times. And therein, to me, does lie a huge issue, because if they're not following the web page or go onto computers, they're not getting the papers. And I think there's a fairly big area in Erskine. If I remember, I'm not sure, other councillors may know within their own wards. There is an issue there, and what can we do? I know we can't solve every issue, but is there something else we can do to reach those residents?
Thank you, Councillor Schumacher. I'll refer that to the Director of Business Services.
Or I'll probably answer that if that's okay. Through Mayor, unfortunately, there is, we're attempting to try and reach all of our residents. However, there are times where, unless an individual mail out, which would be a very expensive exercise, that there will be difficulties in being able to reach every single resident.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Wright.
Through the Mayor, just going back to the Port Mandurah subsidy, what dollar economic benefit is there to the city? Do you have those figures?
Thank you, Councillor Wright. I'll refer that to the CEO.
Through you, Mayor, we will have to take that on notice, but we are able to do that modelling. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Is there anyone wishing to speak against the officer's recommendation? Oh, sorry, another speak against? Yes, Councillor Mulder.
Thank you, Mayor. Put simply, I don't support the introduction of specified area rates for the Port Brevard Southport canals. The existing owners were not advised of a specified area rate when they purchased the property, and I don't believe in changing the rules on those owners. So I would be open to introducing a specified area rate going forward, as and when those properties are sold to new owners who are aware of those arrangements at the time of purchase. I would also note that the intended levy, if we distributed that across all ratepayers, amounts to less than 20 cents per ratepayer for the year. We can clearly manage that and therefore not unfairly change the rules after the fact for the residents around the Southport canals. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mulder. Are there any questions, Councillor Schumacher?
Thank you, through the chair. With what Councillor Mulder has just said, could I have feedback from, and I understand exactly where he's coming up, feedback from the CEO about that, please.
Thank you, Councillor Schumacher. I'll refer that to the CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll respond, and if there's any other directors that want to include any comments, you are welcome. In relation to the canals, the way that the SAR is applied to all canals is still the same principles with the Port Brevard Southport canals. It's to undertake the hydrographic surveys. There is dredging required. It is the maintenance of the waterways, and without charging a SAR to them, which was an oversight by the city officers, and it was only until we did a review last year that we identified that they were the only canals in Mandurah where ratepayers are paying for the works that are not ordinarily funded by the ratepayers of the other canals. Unless there's any other feedback. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. Director of Built and Natural Environment, would you like to add something to that?
I suppose just to further, through the Mayor, just to further support what the CEO has said, it is the only canal estate that doesn't currently pay a SAR in terms of the equity of applying those SARs. Obviously, the SAR also means that those that benefit most from the work effectively are paying for that work without an impost onto other ratepayers across the city, and that is consistent with the principles that have been applied to other canal developments across the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Schumacher, have you got a subsequent question?
Thank you, through the chair. At the time of sale of these properties, was it documented in obviously the settlement documents to the owners? Were they aware of it?
Thank you, Councillor Schumacher. I'll refer that to the Director of Built and Natural Environment.
Through the Mayor, I would need to take that question on notice to review all of the documentation at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mulder, do you also have a question?
Yes, just following up on the comments from the CEO through the Mayor, where it was acknowledged that this was an oversight by city officers. That can happen. I have no issue with that fact. However, if you sign a contract and you've got an oversight, you don't get to go back on that contract and say, "Oh, sorry, by the way, I forgot something. I'm not going to add it." That you've entered an agreement. Now, I know realise this isn't a formal contract, but there is an expectation on which those owners purchased those properties, and there's been no evidence given to suggest that they were advised in any way that there would be a SAR applied to them. So why is it fair for us to now go back and change the rules on them?
Thank you, Councillor Mulder. Can I refer that to the CEO?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. We're certainly not backdating or recommending to council to backdate any of the specified area rates. This is a advertising, and I know that we've had a stakeholder meeting with the residents, and we have been clear that this is a charge that we are recommending to go forward on, and we're certainly not recommending to backdate, which there is an entitlement to do so by a local government if council wish to, but however that's not our recommendation. It is proposing to include the specified area rate in the 26-27 year, which is in line with the existing specified area rates that are charged.
Thank you, CEO. Are there any other questions or anyone wishing to speak for? Questions? Councillor Green.
A question just for point of clarification then on, and thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity to speak. So if the SAR rate isn't applied to this particular area, that means that if there is any damage done to the seawalls or anything, it will come through municipal funds and that, which then the whole community pays for. Is that why we have a special area rate for that particular waterway?
Thank you, Councillor Green. I'll refer that to the CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. So the seawall, the owners are responsible for the seawall. So the city would not be contributing to any damage that relates to their part of the wall. We are responsible for walls where we have a public open space abutting the wall, and so we do factor that in, and we pay a contribution to all, I think it's all SARs, in relation to the public open space percentage that are abutting walls, and so the ratepayers and council are paying for that portion. However, any landowner that has a wall within their property, they are responsible for those walls.
Question?
Yes, Councillor Green.
Does that also involve who does, is it the council or is it the Department of Transport that looks after or assesses any damage to seawalls in that particular area?
Thank you, Councillor Green. I'll refer that to the Director of Built and Natural Environment.
Through the Mayor, that question really depends on who is the owner of the wall. So if it's effectively, as the CEO has mentioned, adjacent or within a reserve, which the city holds a management order over, it would be the city. If it's effectively a wall that's within the ownership of Department of Transport, it would be Department of Transport, and if it's privately owned, effectively it would be up to the private property owner to make any assessments and repairs or renewal of those walls. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from elected members? If there's no other questions, is there anyone else wishing to speak for? If there's, Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, through the Mayor. Yes, I'm speaking for the motion as put, and understanding that this is approving it to go out to advertising. And again, as it's been said, this is not the adoption of 4.95%, which I would love to see zero. I think everyone would love to see zero, but it's just not financially possible. To have a 0% rate increases, every single cost to the local government and to our homes, electricity, water, fuel, would also have to be 0%. And again, as with the the long-term financial plan, all current councillors in this room and a previous one were involved or could have been involved in the planning. And this is, as I said, this is the long-term financial plan and leading to the rates. I encourage people to please make comment. The whole reason we put things out for public comment, apart from it's required by law, is to gain your feedback. And feedback is incredibly important to me and goes a long way to my decision-making process. So if people are listening online or friends, please take the opportunity to make your comments, to read the documents, and let us know what you think. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schumacher. Is there anyone else wishing to speak against? Councillor Cumberworth?
In support of Councillor Mulder's comments regarding the Port Bavard Southport proposed SAR, given the canals were built over 30 years ago and have not required dredging so far, they're on the outside of the bend. There is sufficient natural scouring of the mouth of the canal. It's unlikely that urgent dredging will be required. I feel that having 10 years of fees to build up a dredging reserve is an unnecessarily short amount of time, and that could be extended to 20 or 30 years to spread out the financial burden. Essentially, if someone buys a house in those canals today, sells it in 10 years' time, they will have contributed the amount required for the dredging reserve, and then that canal may not require dredging for another 30 plus years, if ever, from now. I feel that the Southport SAR is quite a lot higher than a lot of the other SARs. It's 0.007. The Northport SAR directly opposite the opposite side of the Dawesville channel is 0.001, so 7 times higher. I think we could easily cut it in half, extend the time frame for the SAR to achieve its reserve limit. That is why I'm ejecting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cumberworth. Councillor Wright, do you have a question? Yes.
Through the Mayor, I'm just wondering on Councillor Cumberworth's point, how you measure the depth of the canal
Thank
at
you.
the entrance and within the actual system.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Wright. I'll refer that to the Director of Built and Natural Environment.
Through the Mayor, there's regular hydrographic surveys undertaken which actually show the level of the bed of the canal. The surveys between 2013 and 2026 indicate that there certainly has been a build-up of sediment inside the canal entrance, and certainly appreciate Councillor Cumberworth's comments around the actual entrance itself. There is sort of scour at the entrance, but inside the entrance there has been a notable increase in the levels of sediment. I will say it's not an exact science, but it is certainly foreseeable that in around 10 years' time, dredging may be required. And certainly on that basis, that is the reason for including that within the SAR.
Thank you, Director. Are there any other questions from elected members? Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you. Through the Chair to the CEO. In relation to the Port Bavard Southport canals, and depending on information that I've requested, when it comes to the rates coming before us for final approval, if it is deemed necessary or a councillor puts up for that to be removed, can that be done?
Thank you. Great question, Councillor Schumacher. I'll refer that to the CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, it can be decided at any time, and what we will do is, from your question that we've taken on notice, we'll ensure that we include the background in the report that's coming back to Council in June, and also provide a briefing to elected members as well.
Thank you, CEO. That would be much appreciated. Are there any other questions from elected members? Is there anyone else wishing to speak for the item? If there's not, I'll put that to the vote. Oh, sorry, yes, Councillor Mulder. Oh, sorry, you can close it. Sorry, Councillor.
I think we were due for an against. We had a 4 from Councillor Schumer. Sorry, my apologies.
Councillor Wright, would you like to close the debate?
Yes, it's going out for advertising, and looking at the SARs and so on, it gets back to my earlier comment about sitting down and discussing these well in advance of items like this coming out. And yeah, I tend to agree, a bit of a surprise to residents is never nice, but yeah, let's get this out for advertising and then consider the feedback. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. I will put, and all the other elected members that participate in the debate, I'll put that to the vote. Everybody in favour? I declare that carried.
Against.
Oh, sorry. Everybody against? Thank you. I declare that carried. We now move to motions of which notice has been given, and there are none. Notices of motion for consideration at the following meeting, there are also none. Late and urgent business items, there is none, and confidential items, there is also none. I would like to thank everybody who has come in tonight to attend Chamber for tonight's meeting, and to everybody that is online. I declare the council meeting closed at 6:42 p.m. and request that live streaming be ended, please.